I'd like to ask the question, is it time we stop believing in Mercury Retrograde? Now, in case you're not familiar with this term, this is that time of the year when your astrology-believing friends will make posts on their Facebook walls and social media, posting memes about why they've had the perfect shitstorm of miscommunications, mishaps, and misfortunes. Now, any modern-day astrologer will tell you this is that time of the year when you want to avoid entering new contracts, starting business relationships, or traveling. But I'm here to tell you, I don't think that is the case. And I'm going to explain how this phenomena affects us and where the origins of these ideas come from. But first, let's look at the idea of astrology. I believe astrological principles or zodiacal principles are very important, and their history goes back a long ways. The ancient Sumerians had records of the zodiac, so did the ancient Egyptians. Most of our religions are based on zodiacal principles. Even our days of the week, Monday through Sunday, come from these principles of the planets. Look at in French, lundi, mardi, mercredi, jeudi, vendredi, samedi, dimanche. For example, Monday, lundi, the day of the lunar day, mardi, Mars day for Tuesday, and it goes on and on all the way to Saturn day, Saturday, and the day of the sun, Sunday. However, what we have to see is that these principles go back even further beyond the times of 1610 or the 17th century when Galileo invented the telescope and did so from his famous observatory in Civitavecchia in Italy. We can look back, into the ancient times that even in 2nd century Rome, there were statues of Kronos or Saturn having rings or chains around him. So there was common knowledge by the ancient peoples that Saturn had rings around it. We know that the ancients knew about celestial mechanics for a very long time. The interesting idea about Mercury is that Mercury is said to be the planet of communication and intelligence. And what we're commonly told about Mercury by astrologers is that it is moving backwards away from the Earth, or it's retrograding. And this is actually an optical illusion. And many famous scientists and astrophysicists have talked about this over the years. Most notably, even recently, Dr. Michio Kaku has come out talking about this. And the interesting idea here is that this is actually an optical illusion. What's actually happening is Mercury is moving by the Earth very quickly. So perhaps this is a time astrologically or with the influences on our lives that we're feeling a stronger electromagnetic influence of the planets. And we know that the moon has an influence on us. In fact, this has been known in occult studies for a very long time. There's even moon charts that exist out there on the various phases of the moon, and many people won't even start a new project until a new moon, for example. And if you want to see the influences, just go and pay attention to the tides of the ocean and see what kind of effect it has on the water on our planet. And if you think about our bodies being made of water, we are susceptible to these influences. In fact, I think what's very interesting about astrology is that when you go and look at the basic core definitions of our personalities based on these zodiacal or astrological principles, we see this in many books like the Encyclopedia of Astrological Signs or Encyclopedia of Birthdays. We can also see influences of astrology throughout the ancient world and religions such as Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and many others. In 240 BCE, which is before the Common Era, Aristarchus gave us the heliocentric model of our solar system, and the name actually derives from the name Helios, who was also the sun god, featured at the Colossus of Rhodes, by the way, which is one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, which showed us that the planets are orbiting around the sun. So even Copernicus knew that this idea of Mercury retrograding was an illusion. Now, we also know when looking at this that Mercury in the ancient world was often portrayed as having wings because Mercury moves so quickly. So, if anything, what we're seeing with Mercury retrograde is that maybe that there's a stronger influence of Mercury that's making us more observant in our lives, so there's a stronger electromagnetic influence. But we have to stop blaming these astrological influences for the problems in our lives, and we have to start taking personal responsibility for everything that we do. And this is taught in the ancient Buddhist philosophies as well, is that if you want to end suffering, take personal responsibility for all your actions and your choices. In fact, Shakespeare famously wrote, "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are the underlings." So this is a time, I believe, when things can naturally go wrong in your life, or you could have a misunderstanding, but instead of giving up in just saying, "Oh, I'm not going to think about this or do anything because we're in this retrograde period," I say it's time to start taking personal responsibility, and you can face any problem that you have head on with good philosophy and wisdom, and know that you're going to have good days, or you could have bad days at any time. But please understand that this idea of a Mercury retrograde is a fairly new concept, so it doesn't have to rule over your life. And if anything, we need to change the belief that this is a time where even greater things can happen in your life. And I think it's very much a belief seated in superstition and ignorance. So I don't want to throw out the rest of astrology, as the saying goes, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but please do think about this, what I said today, and start living your life today. Lastly, there is another concept I'd like to bring up, is that we hear a lot of people talking about, should they pick a relationship based on, what their astrological sign is. And, there's a song by the Dramatics that goes, "I don't want to go by the stars in the sky, I want to go by the stars in your eyes." And I think that's very good wisdom, because there's so much more to our astrological chart other than our sun sign. There's so many other influences. So if you love someone, you love an idea, you love a job, you love a concept, go for it and make it yours.